Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. I enjoy the cartoon that used to be in the paper called The Far Side. The creator, Gary Larson, had an odd way of looking at things, and in one particular panel, he pictures a scene like a Jeopardy game show with a host and two contestants. One of the contestants is God, who has scads of points, and the other contestant is a man named Norman. The host is saying, "Yes, that's right. The answer is Wisconsin. Another 50 points for God, and uh-oh, looks like Norman, our current champion, hasn't even scored yet." Well, if God were on a game show, what else would you expect? You can imagine how poor Norman feels. He's got no chance against God. On Friday this week, I will offer the 1,000th episode of these Pastor Gary Live moments. Frankly, I'm pretty amazed at that number. When I began thinking about that number, I wondered about times in the Bible when the word thousand appeared, and so I got out my concordance. Now, frankly, most of the verses I found dealt with troop numbers before battles or referred to extensive offerings given to God and involved multiples of 1,000. I was looking for times when just 1,000 was used. One of those I found was in Job 9. Most of us are somewhat familiar with the story of Job. He was a faithful follower of God whom God had blessed abundantly. Satan challenged this arrangement, saying that if God took away his blessings, then Job would not be such a faithful follower then. So God let Satan do it. Most of the rest of the book is a discussion between Job and three friends about what has happened and the place of God in life. While his friends said that Job must have done something to deserve all that had happened to him, Job steadfastly says he didn't do anything to cause these bad things to happen to him, and that God owed him an answer. In the end of the book, God does appear to Job and reminds Job that he is God and Job is not. Throughout it all, Job remains faithful. There's a famous verse in Job that says, "The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away." We often quote that verse when bad things happen to us. But the thing is, we forget about the rest of what Job said. You see, the whole verse is, "The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." In both plenty and in crisis, Job praised God's name. Now, what's all this got to do with the number 1,000? Well, in Job 9, it says, "If one wished to contend with God, one could not answer him once in 1,000. This is Job's way of pointing to the infinite wisdom of God. If God posed a question, we could try to answer, but we'd never be right. Kind of like Norman in that Far Side cartoon. We trust in the profound wisdom of God to shape our days. That's a faith we should all aspire to. Psalm 84:10 has a similar message. The author is speaking about the joys of being in the temple, and he says, "For a day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than to live in the tents of wickedness." What an awesome image of being in God's presence. In fact, the psalmist would rather have a lousy job there than to enjoy a whole raft of hedonistic pleasures away from God. Even more, one day in that lowly job is better than 1,000 days elsewhere. This is a point we often make at funerals. When we think about our loved ones going to heaven, we sometimes think about them enjoying endlessly what they most enjoyed here. Or perhaps we think of family reunions or banquets or rest from our labors. Regardless of how we think about heaven, there's one thing that it all tends to come down to. in heaven we will be with God. Our heart's desire will be fulfilled. We will be with God. There's nothing better. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.